Welcome to Week in Horror.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The only podcast that will feed your horror need.
The need to feed.
With JL.
Yeah, I'm a fucking masochist. I'll watch that shit.
Eugene.
Somebody has to be the sex symbol, I'm sorry.
Alex.
Shit, I just demonetize this forever.
And Johnny O.
How do you like that shit? Got halfway through the monologue before unmuting myself. Golly, it's one of them fucking days.
With industry guests.
Hi, this is Richard Oakes, Director of Host.
Hey, this is Adam Leader, Director of Host.
This is Matthew Mark Hunter.
I'm Don Ellie.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And this is Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
News, trivia, and more.
One by one, we will take you.
Join our live show Wednesdays at 7 Central, youtube.com/weekinhorror, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Week in Horror. Stay scared.
All right, welcome horror fans. It's Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. That means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that's 100% death proof. And if you're listening to us on your favorite fuck this shit up. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast host, you can join us here for our live show on YouTube so you too can laugh and scream with us, flex your horror knowledge in the live chat, and maybe even win some trivia prizes. Those are always fun. Go and get your guesses in now with the trivia. Just do it. This week Jesus Christ. This week, we're covering select films released in horror history January 16th through January 22nd. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Johnny O, and with me tonight are JL and Eugene.
How's it going, everyone?
What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't like that little intro line there.
But no, it's fine. It's fine.
Oh man. Okay, so this was a splattery week. So I assume everybody saw that there was kind of a theme to the movies we're going to talk about tonight. But man, before we dive into those, because I have to admit I kind of procrastinated on a couple of these because I was like, because sometimes horror is.
I wonder which ones you procrastinated on.
But it's gonna be a fun chat. It really, really is. But before we dive into those, a couple of things. Yeah. So there was some stuff that happened this past week, and something to come up. But first and foremost,
get the sad stuff out of the way. First.
Yeah, we'll get the sad stuff out of the way. So
we can talk about the sad stuff in the movies.
So unfortunately, we lost not really so much horror, actors or horror icons, but we lost Sidney Poitier, passed away, and as did Bob Saget. Unexpectedly, what was kind of out of the blue. It just kind of dropped. I was doing a live stream on my personal channel, and I got the word like 30 minutes into my live stream. All of a sudden, it hit. TMZ reported that Bob Saget had passed away. So I was like, wow, kind of blown away by that. But lost it.
Crazy, man, because he was like, he was
65.
Yeah. He's young man. Well, younger, but. It's crazy, growing up watching him at Full House. Yeah. I'll never forget the day that I saw the first time I was introduced to his stand-up, right? You got to remember, growing up in the 80s, when you see Bob Saget as a kid, you saw him on Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos. That was it. And he was like Mr. Rogers on steroids when it comes to cleanliness. And then all of a sudden, you've got one of the filthiest comics.
That dude was saying. Apparently, he was actually chastised a few times on the set of Full House for telling dirty jokes in front of the his younger castmates. Is like, okay, look, dude, you've got to pull that back.
This is ABC. The headline.
Yeah.
It's like Mary Kate and Ashley. Come on, they're like 5 years old. It's okay. They're gonna learn about this stuff anyway.
Yeah. Look how they turned out. Fuck.
But yeah, that was a shame. It kind of hit. I was out of the blue, and Sidney Poitier as well. So we lost a couple of legends there. But I tell you what, I was sitting here thinking about it, and of course, because we do so much stuff online, it was suddenly pointed out that like someone posted up, and it was like, hey, just, everybody letting everybody know, like Gene Hackman is still around. He's 91. And he's just living in New Mexico, bikes every day, stays active. And I was like, no. And someone mentioned Robert Duvall, too. I was like, no. You put them out there like that in the world, the universe is going to be like, you guys, that's right.
Just don't forget about Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott's getting up there. Although he's kicking ass in 1888. I got to give him that. He looks awesome.
Look, it's a foregone conclusion. You have Bill Shatner, who's 90. Golly, he's got to be 94. He's in his 90s for certain. He's at least 92.
I think I want to say, because when he went to space, he was 90.
He is 90 years old.
Yeah.
Right now, he'll be 91 March 22nd.
I knew he had a birthday coming up. Yeah. 90. Golly.
March 22nd, he'll be 91. So
let's not forget.
He's still looking in good shape, though. Going strong. Yeah, good genetics there.
Fucking potato, maybe.
Good enough to go to space. We'll give him that.
You look. He could have been fucking Glenn Serio, and they would have sent him to space.
Johnny, I will say, at this point right now in 2022, space travel is just so comfy. It is like, he went to space. It's not like he went up in the Apollo landings, but things were a little different.
Yeah, right.
A little more tricky.
Yeah, he went to like the edge of space. Let's not fuck around here, okay? Not to take it. I would go on that trip all day, every day, but we're not sending him to collect fucking moon rocks, okay? He did not boldly go where men have not gone before.
But man. So it's 2022, kind of rough at the start there. Lost Betty White before kicking it off, and then
I still like to think that Betty White was taking 2021 with her to make sure that the evil went away.
Man. But yeah, so we lost a few legends. Hopefully we won't lose any more.
We're going to I would like to wait a little bit. Can we not lose some of the? We could lose some like that fucking asshole that died, that California mogul who passed away, who died, the one who killed his wife and all that shit. We can lose those people. Fuck those guys.
Yeah, that's fine on it, but it's just because it's gonna happen. Like all the actors that you grew up watching and all of them, it's just a matter of time. On it, it's just want to hold on to it a little bit longer.
Yeah. All right. Well, but as opposed to that, it's kind of a bummer that was. One thing I wanted to bring up, because we were recording this on Wednesday, and this releases publicly, or I guess releases to the podcast sites the following Sunday. But this Friday, because today is the 12th, but this Friday, the 14th, is the new Scream film releases. So we haven't had a Scream movie. We haven't had a Scream movie in 11 years.
And there's good reason. The fourth one was terrible.
The fourth one was not great.
I mean, let's be honest.
Now, early social media reviews are saying that it's really, really good, with some solid twists that are well written and you really don't see coming, and just it pays a lot of good homage to the original Scream, to the very first one. And if you're a fan of the series, then a fan of the franchise, then you'll absolutely love it. But early reviews, I don't know how much you can trust them, but early reactions seem to be really positive.
I'm not a huge Scream fan. I didn't particularly care for the franchise because, again, that kind of came out during the whole like CW era of horror film. Mm-hmm. And it's still, even though it was a little earlier, it just, to me, it seems because of the people they picked to be in it. I never really got on that bandwagon. Not that the original Scream is a bad film. I think it's really well done. I think it's put together very well. The reveal of the two bad guys is done really cool. The interactions between like all the everybody in the film plays their characters very well. Even Jamie Kennedy is good in this.
Right.
And that's saying something.
And I remember they didn't initially want Kennedy for the role. They weren't certain about him until he did. Until in his audition, I actually caught his audition tape, and it was him doing the rules scene, was what he auditioned with. And they said, he did one take, and they were like, you're Randy. You're Randy.
He's one of the things that makes that film, because he's such a memorable character. I think about him more than I think about Nev Campbell, to be honest with you, because of that scene right there where he's reciting the rules, because that's what sets Scream apart from a lot of other slashers.
There's nothing that Jamie Kennedy will ever do that will make me think of him over Nev Campbell. Ever.
Oh man, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if because of what's going on outside with the log alerting and the craziness outside. I'll probably end up waiting for this on digital, just because for me going to the theater
I thought it was already out on digital.
Scream?
Yeah, because there was something they still continue.
I don't think so.
There's a lot that is coming out on digital as it comes to the theater.
Yeah, I don't think it's out on digital yet, but I'll probably have to catch it there, because just going to the theater for me is such a wild pain. But I'm looking forward to it, because I want to see what they did with it, see if it really can meet expectations, or kind of like defeat expectations. Because we were like 11 years later, but they got Nev Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox back. So I'm curious as to where it's going to go. I really am.
Was her face like the swelling from her face go down?
Oh my god! all I know, and I saw this meme about it, and that was you can always count on Courtney Cox to have an interesting hairstyle for every Scream movie, and for that hairstyle to be fantastically bad.
Yeah, it's true. True.
I mean that's one of the things. Like, I know that the three of them are coming back, but it's kind of, what are the three of them doing right now anyway? If one of them was on like a super hit show right now, or they're like killing it in the box office movie-wise, I'd be like, oh man, I can't believe they got Nev Campbell for this. Yeah, because she killed it in this and this and this. But I'm kind of like, I feel like they kind of had nothing better to do.
Well, I mean, think about it. When was the last time we saw Nev Campbell? Oh wait, it was 11 years.
Oh no, Nev Campbell's been doing a lot of TV, so she's been doing like single episodes or arcs on television shows.
No, I get it. That's my point. That's the point that both Eugene and I are making is, what has Nev Campbell been doing lately? When was the last time we saw her on the big screen? Oh, that was 11 years ago.
I don't think Scream 4 was the last movie she did, but
no, it's not the last movie, but it's like,
I mean, you get the point.
Yeah. On that.
The point is, you don't remember what the movies were in between.
Exactly. It's like if Parks and Rec had a reunion and they got Chris Pratt back, I would be like, oh wow, I can't believe they got him back.
Wow. All right. So, well, definitely let us know in the comments below if you are looking forward to the new Scream film, and if you do happen to see it, like if you catch it in theaters, let us know what you thought. First reactions are always really, really good. I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably have to wait till digital. Yeah. But I definitely want to know what everybody else thinks, what all of you out there are thinking about it.
You want to know what I want to know, JL? I want to know how many people enjoyed the Easter egg hunt on the Weekend Horror site.
Looking for. Oh, okay, because I don't want to spoil it. Because
I'm not going to spoil anything. I just want to know how many people enjoyed finding what they found, if they found what they were looking for.
Definitely. Absolutely. So anybody out there listening, obviously everyone in the live chat right now, we're going to say hi. We're going to say hi to everybody here in just a moment. But we did an Easter egg hunt on the YouTube channel on the part of the community tab. There was something you had to look for if you watch the trailer. Find something at the end of the trailer that leads you to another thing, and then there was an Easter egg to try and find. And if you saw it, we would love to hear what you thought. Obviously, your opinions or impressions or comments or whatever. We'd love to hear what you thought about the end result of that little hunt. So definitely let us know in the comments below, or here in the live chat, or hit us up, weekinhorror@gmail.com. All right, so real quick, I'll see if I can buzz through this real fast before we dive into tonight's movies. Say hi to all of our amazing people. You can see our patrons down there at the bottom of the screen scrolling by on the banner. We want to thank all of them for all the support and say hi to Travis Brown is in the house. Good to see you, Travis Brown. Sarcasm in the house, one of our amazing patrons. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your support. And we got Aaron Reese in the house, another one of our amazing patrons. No, bud, you're not late. Good to see you. Charlie Welch is in the house. The only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you, Charlie Welch. Thank you so much.
Charlie Welch doesn't win tonight.
Oh, yeah, Charlie Welch did win. That's right. He did. He won the trivia last week.
He did.
So good to see you, Charlie Welch. Thank you so much. Alpha K91 says, hello, beardos. We do all have beards. That's great.
That's true.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Good to see you, Alpha K91. Sir Little Wolf, Aru to you. Good to see you. Krista Music Channel's in the house with a trivia guest. Trivia question answer, share with auto-tune.
That is fucking scary as shit.
Do you believe?
It's so obvious in that song.
Well, but here's the thing. It was used as an effect. And I hate that. I hate that she started that trend. Well, I don't know if she started that trend, but she certainly fucking ramrodded that trend on through.
Mm-hmm.
God, it was so bad. Anyway.
All right. See, Tony Regime is in the house. Good to see you, Tony Regime. And I see Jinju in there. It says hello, everyone. Good hello to you too. Tony Regime's guess is Le Yusin Visage. I'm not sure what that is, but
that is correct, Tony. You are correct. You're the winner.
Fantastic. Yeah, apparently, Charlie Woods says apparently, Bob Saget was taken by a heart attack in his sleep. But I mean, hey, there's worse ways to go out.
Is there? I feel like there's a scene in Crossroads where Eugene and Willie are on the bus and they're talking about Robert Johnson and Willie Brown says, I know what happened to Robert Johnson, and Eugene's like, what happened? And some say he was shot, some say he was this. He goes, I know what happened. It all means dead.
Wow.
I was always that. That's true. People talk about there are worse ways to die. I said, okay. I mean, I want to be tortured for 16 days before. No. But
oh, wow. Oh, man. All right. So,
it still sucks.
It still sucks.
Oh, Ivy Gentry's in the house. Good to see you, Ivy Gentry. Thank you so much for being here. And I see... And yes, Travis Brown, my beard is stained with the blood of my enemies. For those who can't see me here, because if you happen to catch this after we're live, my beard is red. My beard is red because January is Blood Donor Month. And to show support for that cause, my beard is dyed red. So
that is a perfectly great cause, and I would never, ever put the two together. But one of the films I did watch today,
yeah.
We'll get to that scene later.
Yeah. So Archangel 3, good to see you. Says hello, JL, Johnny O, and Eugene. Good to see you, Archangel 3. Thank you so much for being here. Let me see. And Surf says hello. Good to see you, Surf. Thank you so much for being here. Another one of our amazing patrons. Charlie Welch says Courtney Cox ruined a beautiful face.
She did.
Ouch.
She really did.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I do agree. It was unnecessary.
I think the first thing I saw her in was Masters of the Universe, way back. Dolph Lundgren and whatnot. She's very pretty. And then she did, in Ace Ventura, she was gorgeous.
She was, really pretty in there.
She hates that movie, but whatever.
Still made her famous. So.
Yeah.
Tina Jones in the house says hello, everyone. I'll just be lurking while I get stuff ready for work tomorrow. Well. Damn it, I couldn't get to the mute button fast enough.
Somebody punched Jay in the face.
Oh, I sneezed. Sorry about that. Well, good to see you, Tina Jones. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, I think I managed to. Oh, and there's Ann the George said, good to see you. And the George says, waiting for a ride to the hospital. No way to wind down like Week in Horror. Good to see you. And the George said, pleasure. Hope everything's okay.
Yeah.
And John Fabiano's in the house. Says, word. Good to see you, John Fabiano. Thank you so much for being here. And there's Elizabeth S26. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here. All these amazing listeners. Oh, what is it? Aaron Ray says, a pint of my blood costs $2,600, so I cannot donate anymore, unfortunately.
Christ.
Damn.
Capitalism, baby.
Yeah. You need a kidney? Well, I got two. I can spare one.
Sir Little Wolf says, I want to go like my grandpa in his sleep. not like the screaming passengers in his car.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, we're here to talk about movies. Let's get this show on the road. I mean, this splatter show on the road.
Oh yes,
It
yes.
still works. It still works for shit and blood. Splatter, yeah, it still works.
It kind of does. It kind of does, depending upon your diet. So,
not while I'm drinking. God damn it!
All right. So the first movie, man, we're gonna dive in. We're really diving into this one. I hit me and my themes. So the first movie we're gonna talk about tonight, released.
Apologize for this one.
Yes, released January 16th, 1976, and it is called Snuff. So, directed by Michael Findlay, the notorious Michael Findlay, and Simon Nocturne, written by Michael Findlay, and starring, I'm going to try and pronounce these because this was all shot in South America, Margarita Amushastegui.
Hey, it's Eugene...
Amushastegui, Ana Caro, Liliana Fernandez Blanco, Alfredo Iglesias, Enrique Laratelli, Mirta Massa, Aldo Mayo, and Clau Villanueva. Boom. What?
Well, if I were a white guy, that's exactly how I would say it too.
Anyway, so okay, so to summarize this plot. There is even a plot. Essentially, a psychotic gang of biker chicks, led by this evil cult guy who goes by like Satan or Satan, or the way it's pronounced, because there's like an accent in the Satan. Targets this girl, the character London, and who's currently pregnant, and end up killing her and all of her friends by the end of it. And then, but while that seems pretty seems kind of like it's hard to suss that plot out of what you actually watch, because this thing is all over the place. Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember that Italian supposedly horror movie that we watched? That was where there was so much exposition going on that it was not even integral to the plot.
Like what, like 4 weeks ago or something?
Like it's like the Satan thing, or
yeah, it was like 4 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of expositional scenes, but a whole lot of tits. There's like lots and lots of tits, lots and lots of sex, and some violence. The movie's called Snuff, but it is not really what you would think. It's not really what you would think it is. And this is what I wanted to talk about. Is number one, jumping into like the urban legend of snuff films. Okay, and we'll get into why this film was called Snuff, because of what happened at the very, very end. Because it's really, really weird. At the end of this thing, you can actually tell where the movie kind of ended, and then where this last scene was tacked on. And so the idea of this was that this movie was shot down in South America, where it's super, super cheap, lots of TNA. Michael Findlay is a legendary, he and his wife are a legendary sexploitation filmmaking duo. And so that's what the movie essentially was. And they shot this movie, but then it was picked up by another director, and then using an adult film studio, shot the final scene of the movie and then just tacked it onto it. Almost like the whole movie you just watched was a movie, and then it went meta, where the final scene is supposed to be what's really happening. So it's kind of like, here's the final scene, the girl gets killed, and then everything pulls back and, oh, we're on a movie set. And then suddenly on the movie set, another girl gets killed, and it's really, really graphic. She gets her fingers cut off and gets dismembered and then gets gutted and everything. And then it just ends with no credits. It just like the film runs out.
That's because they didn't want to take any credit for this piece of shit. I mean,
right.
Movie.
So
the Feast of Satan is what you were looking for.
Feast of Satan, that was it. And ostensibly, that's the reason. And it was marketed as like Snuff. I think of like. It's like shot entirely in South America, where life is cheap was like the tagline. And that's essentially what the movie is. It's like a whole movie, which is really goofy, kind of Manson-y inspired. And then they use the kind of like urban legend of snuff films, real murder caught on tape. and they use it to market this thing. And the Snuff legend is, it's kind of weird in a respect, just kind of like the origins of it.
Yeah, see, so snuff films, obviously talking about films where like people actually die on it, and it dates all the way back to honestly the beginning of cinema. Usually maybe some combat, some war footage like World War I, World War II, that kind of thing. But there's always been this kind of this underground where people are kidnapped and taken and are executed almost like Hostel style. There is something like that out there. I remember when Eli Roth was talking about how he was researching for Hostel, and he ended up going over to like Thailand, Philippines, or something like that because he wanted to dive as close as he could into the pay for murder scheme, which they do videotape a lot of that. And it eventually got to the point where someone came up to Eli Roth and was like, "You need to stop or something's going to happen to you." And Eli took that immediately as, "I've gone too far," and he packed up his shit and went straight back home on that. So there is something.
I think that's just a great story used for marketing.
And you know, the thing is, whether it was a great story, fiction or not, the thing is there is that culture out there, and there's kind of.
The point is, it works. Like what JL was talking about, the marketing behind it, it works.
Yeah. Well, that's the wild thing, and like Johnny was saying, the story that Eli comes as like, I went to the Philippines. There's some dark places in the world where you could find really gnarly shit. So he comes back with this story that he was investigating this and doing research and doing all this stuff, and then wound up coming across a particular individual who warned him off because he was asking questions of all the wrong places. And then, the mainstream, we know these things, exposed to things like the Silk Road and the Darknet. Okay, so when you have to have special browsers or special browsers in order to go and access certain stuff on the internet, and so we're suddenly aware of this in a very mainstream capacity. Now, this is back when he was doing Hostel, and he's physically going down there and diving into it. Now he comes back with this story, and like Johnny said, it could have been real. Mm-hmm. It could have been straight marketing, and that's the wildness of this, is that just by that marketing alone, because it's such a taboo subject, and it seems so unnatural, but like Eugene was saying, from the history of these things, you got footage from World War II, footage from Korea, footage from Vietnam, where this stuff was recorded, and then all of a sudden there's a market for it, and then there's like extreme stuff, say like sexual sadism, and then how far does that go? And then ultimately you have this idea that people out there doing like pornographic films that result in murder or just straight murder. The film 8mm touched on this as well. With Nick Cage, right? With Nick Cage. So I think that's why it's hard to say. I think that's why the marketing works so well, and that this is one of the last areas that's so taboo that you'd have to like drum up the stuff. Because I think cannibalism, I think we're beyond that. So I think like snuff films are one of the least. But in my mind, the reason the idea it's so obviously so taboo, murder on tape being taboo, but is it really in this culture? With given what the news, I mean, heck, we've seen people like die on the news.
I don't remember specifically, but I remember reading in broadcasting classes about when we were sending reporters over to Vietnam, and that shit was being broadcast. That's like one of the changing or turning points of our involvement in Vietnam and whatnot, was the fact that we were being brought, like this shit, these atrocities were being shown on like the 6:00 news. That here we are in Vietnam having, here's a war, and there's a dead kid just because of friendly fire or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting way to look at snuff and how it does. That is still still on the fringe. It still is very taboo. Because why do we watch movies?
Escapism.
escapism or entertainment, right?
Right.
We don't want to see real shit. That's not the idea. We want to watch something real. We could turn on the news or go outside. So when we're saying the thing about the taboo-ness of a snuff film, like murder actually caught on tape, I was like, come on, man, is that something we really want to check out?
Well, I mean, at the same time, you think of death, right? Somebody being murdered. Odds are the worst moment in someone's life as they are painfully being killed, and then for the sheer sake of entertainment, I think that's what it's like. We all are going to die at some point, but for someone who is born, has an entire childhood, they become an adult, and then all of a sudden is completely killed. They're killed in some brutal way for nothing more than someone's entertainment. I think that's something we can picture dying for a meaningful cause, or dying for heart failure, heart attack, car wreck, something like that. Maybe some kind of tragedy, but dying purely for someone else's entertainment, it leaves like this emptiness.
There's this and it's difficult. It's a difficult subject to talk about, and because I mean, you're talking about the idea that I think that in my mind, in my opinion, that there are obvious lines where when you're crossing them, you just cross into total human depravity in this respect, and we are aware of these lines on kind of like a social level. And the thing that gets me is that being kind of like societally aware of these things, kind of like I heard feedback there for a second.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay. So being kind of socially aware of these things, snuff and things that are similar to it. Now, not particularly this film. This film just runs on the gamut of that kind of marketing ploy. You know, like Cannibal Ferox did, like Cannibal Holocaust did. You know, those types of films where they run the gamut of such total human depravity that I think they actually do more harm than good, because there's a reason why horror, the horror genre, is still kind of a counterculture. You know, it's the reason it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of cinema. You know, you can have intelligent horror films, you can have splatter horror films, you can have shock horror films, gore porn, doesn't matter. You have of all different stripes, but it's still the horror genre. And because when you tag it with that horror genre, when you tag it with that horror label, it's going to be the redheaded stepchild of cinema. No matter how much money you dump into it, it's going to have that, because people look at this thing, mainstream audiences who don't just devour horror like we do, who just love the genre for what it is and what it says about our society. But you have people, the vast majority of the mainstream, who say, when they look at these movies, it reminds them of real things. They don't like thinking about those. Like Johnny said, that movies are meant for escapism. They're meant for to be entertaining. They don't like being reminded of these things. And also in their minds, how far does it go? What's the ultimate what's the culmination in your horror journey of watching horror movies? You start out with scary stuff, easy, ghosts and goblins and stuff like this. Then you move on to like slashers and hardcore stuff, then like psychological terror, and then torture porn, and like how far does it go before it's enough,
or before it's too much,
or before it's too much?
Well, the thing is because deep down on some level, no matter how graphic your watching is, it's fake,
right?
And that there's certain safety precautions, and the actors that are portraying or doing those things have consented to that. So you can push that as far as an extreme as you want, and it'd be okay. As soon as somebody is like, I want to watch a real beheading, I want to watch something, that to me that's the line. You had that. This was years ago. He was like a Danish billionaire who had a submarine and invited this reporter onto a submarine. Well, he ended up killing her. And when they were investigating, they found over like hundreds of videos of like women beheadings, like all like real stuff from the dark web. And just they found how sick and twisted that he was, and he's in prison now for it. but once you cross that line into it has to be real, that's the line.
Yeah,
that's why I'm thinking that this level of marketing is the reason it works now, because you put that word in there, and it's going to ring. Once that bell is rung, you cannot unring it.
Right.
In that respect. And I know that some people are going to say, I know that some horror fans are going to, they're going to argue. We know that it's fake. We know that it's not real. We know all the things that Eugene just touched on, the consent of the actors, no matter how gory it looks, like there was legitimate, like, criminal action taken against the makers of Cannibal Holocaust, because they like people thought, actors died in that thing,
right.
And it was almost to the extent like in Blair Witch Project, because of the marketing ploy. They never did any publicity. The actors never showed up anywhere. And people started thinking, where are these actors? We can't find them.
It was done so well because nobody knew that, like, outside of the filmmakers, no one knew, like, talking about Blair Witch, that Blair Witch was happening, right? So they were able to do their, go film and come back and kind of do their thing for a little bit. And then they disappeared for a while, like stopped making any kind of appearance. They were real hush-hush about it. But it's what made it work. So the only reason why Blair Witch is a thing is because it had a great marketing campaign.
I mean, absolutely. Because in the beginning, they weren't doing interviews. They weren't doing anything. You just sold it. And I don't know if you could do something like today just because of the way the internet is today and how interconnected everybody is. But at that time,
Facebook wasn't a thing. MySpace was barely a thing.
There wasn't a social media at all.
I mean, you had AOL Instant Messenger.
That's it. Yeah, you can talk to your friends, but you're not like browsing through like 1,000 of your friends on Facebook or not even MySpace kind of thing.
Well, I think in this particular one, the marketing was the only thing that were the urban legend of snuff films, which I think carries the same level of weight as kind of like, you guys remember the Satanic Panic in the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. When the FBI came in, there was all these investigations and nothing came of it. It was all just a bunch of junk. It was all just bogus. Okay. Yeah. So just, stories blown out of proportion, the media and art influencing, memory kids, was it coerced confessions or, false memories and stuff. It was just really, really bad. But that still rings true. Even 2022, there's still people out there who talk, remember the Satanic Panic in the 80s? This kind of urban legend, obviously I keep using the term urban legend. And yes, we know that this type of thing does exist. And it's so extreme that it is proliferated into the art form as well. And despite that, because of how taboo it is, the marketing is the only reason a movie like this would ever get made. I think originally it was going to be titled Slaughter. And then it turned out that that name was being used by something else and in the blaxploitation genre. But then they wind up going with Snuff, and then the second director tacked on that final scene. I will give him this, at least this. The whole movie was just garbage. It looks like a whole bunch of out of work 70s porn stars just trying to do their best to like make a movie, and it was just a bunch of softcore stuff, lots of tits and lots of like simulated sex. Lots of squibs too. Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of
If they had a budget, that's where it went.
And very obviously a lot of inspiration by the Manson family murders that took place in 69, the Tate murders that took place in 1969, which was was it 6 years? No, 7 years.
Yeah.
7 years before this. Inspired a lot of this because it's a cult going after and killing a pregnant young woman. Obviously, they make the actress pregnant. It's obviously a ripoff Sharon Tate. So running off of this, but then they do that final scene at the end. And I will give them this. Well, all of the kills, everything in the movie, they're all crap. Everything was crap in that. Then they just tack on this like snuff scene at the very end that just comes out of freaking nowhere. I will give them this.
By the name of the film.
Huh?
They had to justify the name of the film.
Yeah, they didn't justify it up to that point.
Right. And then, but I will admit, I mean, that scene was kind of rough. I'll give it that. Although, obviously, it's so not real. I mean, we can see it now, and absolutely not real. people are not that calm when they're being like, dismembered and disemboweled when they're conscious. People just don't like, oh, it's happening. Oh goodness.
Oh, hey, it's like Elijah Wood from fucking whatever, Sin City. Okay,
it's kind of like you're just gonna lie there and let it happen. It's like no, it's not the way it works. Yeah. But I will admit, so I think that they pulled the same stunt as the that other Italian horror, the weird incesty guy keeps the corpse of his dead girlfriend in the bedroom. See, that one we talked about. It was another one. Why does the title of it escape me again?
I wonder why the title of that shit movie would escape you.
But anyway, they use the same deal where I thought that the disembowel scene was pretty well. It was well done as far as like camera effects. But if you look closely, you can see the part where she's going into the bed, where she's underneath the bed and the fake body is above. And it was for 1976. It was well set up.
Yeah,
I was like that was kind of impressive. It was in the autopsy scene in that other one, where he opens her up and he's pulling out all the the intestines and
right.
all that stuff. That was way more. Yeah, that was really impressive.
Honestly, I made the joke about them spending their budget on squibs, but they obviously spent the money on. That's where the bulk of their budget was on effects.
Well, it was technically two different. It was technically two different productions though. Well, because that last scene was just tacked on to the end to kind of, I guess, like be extreme. It was like, I'm watching this movie about this cult, and then all of a sudden the movie ends with the death of the pregnant chick. She's like, and she stabs her, and then it cuts out. It's like, oh wait, it's a movie. They're on a movie set. There's the lights, there's the camera dude. There's like the creepy grip walking by, and then it was like, oh, now we're gonna do a sex scene. Or a sex scene, and then the chick gets murdered, and that's the end of the movie. It's so weird.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I was just like, okay, I thought the movie's over. Oh, it's not over. I guess this is where the snuff comes in.
Like no reason for it. Other just like boom, here you go. And I will admit, it was an interesting transition how they moved from that and I thought it was kind of cool because they have the girl, there's the pregnant girl in the bed. She's like, "Is it yours?" She stabs her in the stomach. She's like, and then it pulls back, and everything in this is dubbed. So there was like terrible audio. Apparently, they had to drop all the audio, and they redubbed everything in English. And some of the actors in the reshoots, they tried to mouth the English instead of like saying it. So that's why it's so bad. The audio is just terrible in this movie. And it was kind of like that. So you drop the she's stabbing the girl, and then the camera pulls back, and she's stabbing the pillow. So she's like like this. It's like, oh, okay. So like, it was just weird because they dropped that in. That's the reason why when they go back and when the camera pulls out and you realize they're on a set, the girl who was doing the stabbing was not the same actress, and they actually pull when she walks off set. That's why they block her face. Because this thing was shot after all the previous stuff was in the can. This was shot later on, like really fast, and like I think like a single day shoot, really fast, in a porn studio, in an actual adult film set. Is where that whole thing was. So then they just tacked it on. They just threw it on there at the end, real quick. So
what it seems like is there was a weird prawn movie being made. They had some extra footage that they didn't use. Like, hey, just put this movie over here.
So but this is a particularly weird one, and obviously utilizes the power of the urban legend, the power of this kind of marketing, the very taboo nature of this level of this kind of filmmaking out there to generate it, because this movie would not have been successful without that in it. I mean, the movie, there's a lot of rumors about the film and a lot of unconfirmed information. They don't know if it ever saw an actual release. Some say it had a limited release. Some say it had no release. Some people say that it was hidden on purpose for a while. It's difficult to say. And even the Findlays.
Yeah, because the people who made the movie didn't want it seen.
But the Findlays specialized in this kind of in this kind of crap. Just not the snuff stuff, but the sexploitation stuff. They absolutely did. That was their bread and butter. They were notorious for it. So it was weird, but obviously the marketing worked for it, to that extreme. But I'm very, very curious. I wanted to ask the audience about this because this was, given the end result, and it was kind of, there was some splattery moments in it, the girl, getting tortured at the very, very beginning of the film, and then, dudes just getting, like, shot all over the place, and just, getting hacked up and stuff, like, that the old guy gets stabbed in the chest and everything at the party, which the whole party scene was just weird. I didn't get it.
Oh, goddamn movie was weird.
Yeah, it was just like all unnecessary exposition.
Yep.
Just like the Feast of Satan.
Yep.
Why are we watching people on this speedboat? It is just
because we all watched that one video where all the people on the speedboat crashed, and we're hoping.
So I definitely want to ask the audience, what is y'all's favorite splatter horror film? I know everybody's seen one, and we want to know what your favorite one is. Definitely let us know in the live chat or down there in the comments below, or weekinhorror@gmail.com. Maybe you've seen something that we haven't. I doubt it, but definitely let us know what your favorite splatter horror film is. All right. So we got through that when we broached this subject. So on to Eugene. The one.
real quick,
Eugene, you have to sing it. See, she says you have to. You
sing what?
If I'm the only one,
I already know.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do, Eugene. If I'm the only one who put the next movie title together with a quasi-popular Christmas song, then you guys just not playing the game right.
Oh, I get what you're saying. All right. I get what you're saying.
Real quick though, so we're talking about Snuff, and I always found the story hilarious when Nine Inch Nails was shooting their very first music video down in it, and they wanted to get some aerial shots. They ended up taking a couple of film cameras and strapping them to balloons because drones weren't a thing in 1989. So they filmed what they needed to film with these just cameras up in the air. Well, one camera floated away and it landed 200 miles away in some farm field. And so the farmers caught it and took a look at the footage, and the footage is of Trent Reznor, he just jumped off a building. So they thought it was a dead person. So they thought it was a snuff film. So they turn it over to the FBI. The FBI starts investigating. Now this is months go by. From when the original shoot, the video is released and all sorts of kind of stuff. But Nine Inch Nails was still a very new band at the time. So the FBI is investigating, and they finally trace it back to the director. They trace it back to Trent Reznor, and Trent Reznor had to actually go in front of the FBI and prove that it was him. That was the dead body in the video.
That's amazing.
Fuck up. Hey guys, you remember that video we shot 4 years ago? I gotta go prove that I'm not dead.
Same thing with Cannibal Holocaust. They demanded there was a demand for the actors for the particular actors to show up in court and prove to the court that they're still alive.
Yeah, and that's but I don't want to tell everybody that was in this movie.
Produce these actors. Well, in the chat we got some. Obviously, we got some love for Brain Dead or Dead Alive, which was a definite splatter movie for Peter Jackson, one of his earlier ones. After Bad Taste. And then, of course, Cabin Fever is up in there. Yes, Charlie Welch says Cabin Fever. And
I don't know why they had to do a shot-for-shot remake of Cabin Fever.
It was, that was unnecessary. It was just one of the soulless ones.
I sat down to watch. I was like, "Oh, Cabin Fever, cool." I'm like, "Wait a minute, where's Corey's best friend? That's not just so." I'm like, "Where's this stupid fucking idiot?" I looked at it.
Where's Sean Hunter?
Yeah, exactly. Where's Sean Hunter? And where he's like, "What? 2016? The fuck? This didn't come out in 2016."
Oh, and I also want to say how we had some people jump in here. So I say hi to Sonia Garlic. Thank you so much for being here. And I saw a couple wrote it no last name. Gabba to you. Good to see you. Nerd Journal's in the house. Good to see you, Nerd Journal. And I saw Anacito Maldonado. Good to see you, Anacito. Glad you're able to join us. And I think Dan Hetfield and Mr. Malort. Thank you all so much for being here. Good to see everybody. All right.
Okay.
So Eugene, you have our next one. At least this one had some comedy elements to it.
It was interesting. I will say that.
Yeah, it was an interesting premise on it. So next we have released January 18th, 1968, and it is Spider Baby, directed by Jack Hill, starring Lon Chaney Jr., Carol Omart, Quinn Rediker, Beverly Washburn, Jill Banner, and the great Sid Haig.
Fucking Sid Haig.
Sid Haig.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was so young. He's like he's just a baby in this one.
He was. He was in his 20s, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah. Man, it's just like when he comes out.
When he passed away in 2019, and this came out in what it's called?
68.
No,
was the release date.
Yeah, he was a youngster.
Yeah, it was just wild seeing him, just like, but still, those same looks. But yeah, man, we got going. Yeah, for those who haven't seen it, definitely give them the plot summary.
So basically, what the movie is about is Lon Chaney Jr. plays a chauffeur who is responsible for overseeing these three kids. Now, the thing about this family is that this family has a genetic condition that they eventually mature into cannibals on it. So the chauffeur is basically watching these three kids, knowing at some point they're going to mature and transform into cannibals.
Mm-hmm.
Like devolve, like devolve. Yeah,
I guess I would. Like, I don't know. I don't know if there was ever a point in our evolution where we were cannibalistic, but
because like they did, like devolve into like these monsters. It's all especially when the other ones, the super devolved ones, come crawling out of the basement. They look like something out of Twilight Zone. Oh, they look like Twilight Zone monsters to me.
They kind of did, but they were in color, so it made it worse. And then.
That was more scary.
Wait, you saw this one? You saw it in color?
No.
No, we're talking about the other one, not this one.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. The black and white. The only reason I think this kind of works in a way is because it's in black and white. But
black and white allows you to get away with a lot of shit that you can't.
It really does.
But this is kind of it was wild because it was, number one, the film was a lot more enjoyable than I anticipated. I was like, this is actually it had some funny moments. It had some, just like, that's funny. And I love watching Sid Haig just being like, obviously the goofiest role I've ever seen him play around in. But this thing turned into kind of a cult legend.
I can understand why. Well, probably because of Sid Haig, but I can understand why. Because like you said, the film itself was surprisingly enjoyable. If you don't go into this movie with a lot like high expectations, you're gonna have a good time, because it's really silly in some points, and it's some of the, like the whole play Spider with me, like the whole thing about being Spider Baby, like what the fuck does Spider have to do with this whole situation?
With anything?
Yeah, they have spiders in there, the tarantulas that show up all of a sudden, and it's weird, but.
I will give this when he's all tied up, when Peter's all tied up in the chair, and he's reaching for the knife, and he's like, and then the tarantulas come out. He changed his expression. It almost knocked me out of my chair, just like, ooh.
Yeah. Oh, like, wait a minute. You just like 4 minutes ago, this girl was about to stab you in the neck twice. A little tarantula comes out and you're freaked out.
And it's like it kind of like he's in a chair, but he tries to like back up. He's kind of like, whoa. Just the way that actor was he was brilliant. I can't remember who it was Quinn Rediker. Quinn Rediker is just, his facial expressions made it. Everybody's emoted perfectly. This. I love seeing Lon Chaney Jr. It was like the old man who's just like totally calm about all of this craziness that's going on. Have a bowl of weeds. It was just, the dinner scene was insane.
Have a bowl of weeds. Okay.
That was just weird. Some of our garden greens. Those aren't garden greens.
Yeah.
Did you know that there? I mean, the crazy stuff is, there's a musical adaptation of this, like a musical stage adaptation of this movie.
It wouldn't surprise me. It'd be kind of cool. Yeah, it would be kind of cool to see as a stage play.
It's wild. Yeah, look at this. What was it? It toured. It was it debuted in 2004 on Halloween. perfectly.
Yeah.
And then has made tours in 2009 and 2012. That is just wild. And of course, the soundtrack itself has been covered so many times. Been bands like Phantomos. We've talked about Phantomos before in the past, and thrash bands, and Kid Congo Powers have all worked on that. There's supposedly a remake in the mix of it, but I think it was because the movie doesn't take itself so seriously, and to be honest, I was watching it. It looks like everybody is legitimately having fun and enjoying the production. While a lot of the more horror-y stuff is implied, because you don't get super splattery. And I think that the scene when the kids, when Sid Haig and the sisters, and when Ralph and Veronica and was it Emily? This is when him and the sisters are trying to solve the girl's foot in order to get her to calm down, and then they're reasoning, and this is just hysterical. So, and I think that's what makes it, if they try to take this, if the filmmakers or the actors had taken this thing way too seriously, this would have been really terrible. And it's just because it is tongue in cheek, and everybody knows it. This is what the joy of filmmaking looks like. So they know the story is goofy, but we're all having a great time. It's a fantastic set to play with, that giant, that giant house. And this is the fun of filmmaking back in the 60s. And then, of course, it's simplistic. You have this goofy story to tell, and then that's pretty much it. You throw in a horror legend, Lon Chaney Jr. in there to get the credit up, or get the street cred you need.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is what was fun about it, and just you watch this one for the performances of the wacky kids, for the kind of intrigue, the weirdness, and then I like the little cut at the end. At the end when Peter's telling the story, because the whole thing is told in flashback. Peter's telling the story. And then he does the cut where it shows his daughter, and his daughter's outside Oh, but it's a fun movie, and it's got a pretty zany legacy as far as it goes. I mean, obviously, the music in itself, the stage adaptations. What was it about this was shot, the now historic Smith Estate out in Highland Park, which still stands today. You actually can go out and see that. And the marketing, unfortunately, I think the bad marketing behind it is what led to that, because I think there was a bunch of title changes. Originally, this was called The Liver Eaters, which makes sense now that I've seen it.
Yeah.
So Liver Eaters, Attack of the Liver Eaters, Cannibal Orgy, and The Maddest Story Ever Told, which I actually think The Maddest Story Ever Told would have worked better.
I'm particular to Cannibal Orgy.
That name really sticks with you, though.
There's no room for misinterpretation.
Wow, that they shot this thing in 12 days for $65,000. Although $65,000 in 1960s, late 60s was pretty strange.
Budget.
Yeah.
Considering.
Yeah.
65 in 12 days, huh?
And it's wild because and you could just tell. You could tell by the it is an excellent blend. So I really both kind of scary and funny, and not too extreme. Jack Hill was is a legendary director. So, and weird because his later work, he went really, really strong into feminism and strong female characters. So it was kind of interesting in this respect. But I dug this one. I think it's an enjoyable one. A bit on the obscure side, but A bit. And then of course, just Sid Haig. I like going back and seeing Sid Haig, and
Sid Haig has never had hair.
I don't think he has. I don't think he's ever had hair.
Maybe.
He was born without hair, except his face.
That's it. Only the beard.
Only the beard.
Yes, it was. I think it was Shinju, and the live chat said, "Pour one out for Captain Spaulding."
A lot of people. I just don't like that movie. I don't like House of a Thousand Corpses. I don't like fucking Devil's Rejects, and I thought they really shat on him in whatever the fuck that third one was.
Three from Hell was. I'm also in kind of in the ballpark of that. 3 from Hell was just kind of unnecessary, and just wasn't a way, just that wasn't a good send off for the old guy. But two things that I found interesting about this, about Spider Baby, and it's like if you look at the things that were going on at the time around the film. So this was 1968. This was, I think, so this was kind of like in the before Hollywood lost its innocence, which is regarded we going back to like around the Tate murders, which is essentially referred to the time that Hollywood lost its innocence. So we're still kind of in that period of time, but still like the kind of cultish mentality of the 60s, and I think there was some inspiration there. There's also what I found, looking into this one, they talk about this rare syndrome that only exists in this family, the Mary syndrome, that only exists in this family and causes their, the older they get, the more they regress into like a feral, animalistic, cannibalistic, state. They just get, dumber and more violent.
Yeah.
And
hey,
it reminded me of a documented case of blue-skinned people in Kentucky. I don't know if you guys had ever heard about that. Had you?
I haven't.
Heard about blue babies, but not blue skin.
Okay, so there was a family out in Kentucky, and I actually want to get their name because I know people might want to like read up about this. The blue skin family in Kentucky. So the Blue Fugates. Okay. So the Blue Fugates were a family that lived in the hills of Kentucky. And they're commonly called either the Blue Fugates or the Blue People of Kentucky. They're notable for they were carriers of a genetic trait that led to the blood disorder methemoglobinemia or something. Methemoglobinemia. It was weird, but it causes the appearance of blue-tinged skin, and it was only documented in this family. And the reason it was only in this family was because of inbreeding, which is also used as a trope in Spider Baby. This kind of like family-centric disease that only exists there. And where was it at? These people were documented in.
This is why you don't inbreed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's see, the Fugates. This was the family was founded in 1820. So, and there was a little, a bit of documentation done on them, and this was around 1820, where Martin Fugate and Elizabeth Smith, who had married and settled near Hazard, Kentucky, were both carriers of this gene, and 4 of their 7 children exhibited blue skin, and continued progenation from there resulted in the Blue family of Kentucky. So, given that was kind of like a legendary thing, and one of the few times this exhibited here, I think that was partially inspirational for this story here. I can see the connection there.
Yeah, I can see the connection.
Yeah, I can see it. But actually, so I want to ask the audience, because this is a pretty obscure horror film. What is the most obscure horror film that you've seen? Something that's like you've seen it and you may not know anybody else who's seen it. Go out there on some of these. What is the most obscure horror film that you've ever seen? And so comment, leave a message in chat, comment below, or shoot us an email at weekinhorror@gmail.com.
I don't know if this one's a super obscure, but Making Contact. You guys still haven't seen that one.
I do need to.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Also known as Joey.
Yeah, I do need to find that one. I've seen a bunch of weird ones. But that's the problem with like obscure. I can give like titles out for ones I've seen, but that's the problem with this. Like people. I don't know if people could find these things. So
yeah.
Tony Regine brought up. So Little Wolf's is Last of the Living, and Tony Regine Track of the Moon Beast, which we actually have coming up this season. we will be talking about Track of the Moon Beast this season. I cannot wait till we get to it.
I'll be on vacation.
But I think well, it was a couple of it. Like I think 7 Deaths in the Cat's Eye that's a really obscure one that the titles always remain in memory.
See, a lot of them will have various titles. Like I saw it was like The Little Touch of Satan.
Right. Okay.
Which, I mean, the movie's so bad at one point a gate hits the camera and they just left it in the film. So the camera's
I noticed that they did the same kind of error in Snuff. The same kind of error in Snuff was at the party scene when they're going to the scene where the girl in the mask murders the guy. The camera goes through like one of those the curtain walls where you have to part it in order to go through, and you see the shadow of the camera moving into the deal. It was so odd. It was just like, come on, guys, really?
Yeesh. I'm gonna have a great no.
I was like, yeah, that's good. No one will notice.
Okay, no, it's good.
All right, Johnny, what do we got next?
Oh yeah, here we go.
All right, fine. Stop it! I got a puppy that won't leave me alone. January 21st, 2012. We have an American.
Hey, Skid Scratcher, good to see you. Sorry to interrupt. Just want to say hi.
Throw things at you, JL.
Sorry.
You professional. Professional here. I forgot the line. Shit. Anyway, January 22nd, 2012. We had Excision, which is an American horror film written and directed by Richard Bates Jr. That was, I found out today, based on it's a feature-length adaptation of a 2008 short film of the same name. It stars, I can't read her name, Annalyn McCord, Tracy Lords, JL, you're welcome, Ariel Winter, Roger Bart, Jeremy Sumter, Malcolm McDowell, Matthew Gray, Goobler. Golly, I need new glasses. And a bunch of other people too. So fuck that.
Well, some rather name. I mean, Marley Matlin, Ray Wise, and John Waters.
Yeah. Gas is really good. The fact that it's got Tracy Lords in it is the reason why JL picked this one.
John Waters is a priest.
So
that just
anyway.
It's kind of like
you want me to tell about the fucking movie or not?
Yeah, I know, but it's kind of like Tenacious D as Meatloaf is like the religious dad.
Yeah.
So you just don't. It's like what? Okay, go ahead.
No, you're fine. So basically, the film follows Pauline, who is disturbed and delusional as a high school student, because you know what a high school student isn't. She wants to have a career in medicine, and her parents are kind of interesting. Tracy Lords is real disapproves of everything that she does, and she has a younger sister who's named Gracie, who suffers from cystic fibrosis. And this is Eugene should have had this film, because this one here is like tailor made.
That's so true.
Because holy shit! So there's a sex ed class where they talk about STDs, and the teacher is actually kind of funny. Because a lot of things have changed since I was a kid, but one thing that hasn't changed. Reproduction, and reproduction, how it works, and we're going to talk about STD. Fuck. Look, I might be old, but people still fuck. Anyway, she gets this idea to look at some blood and STDs and whatnot, and she finds something that just really look. Go watch the movie. Be just as disgusted as the rest of us. You'll look like jail. Okay.
I mean, even the question she asked in class when she's like, "Can you get an STD from a dead person?"
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Red flag number. Well, I mean, I would say
red flag number 15,000 at this point in the movie. We're only 20
well,
minutes.
I mean, at this point in the movie, already her dreams.
Yep. So
her dreams are already a major red flag, because
we call this night terrors, or just like weird.
Because she obviously is orgasming after she has them.
That's true. That's true.
So she has so almost Dexter-like in its her pathological obsession with blood.
Yeah.
She has these dreams, these vivid dreams that result in her, result in her orgasming, and there's these blood-splattered, blood-fueled dreams that she keeps having. So she's got this unnatural obsession, and then of course, as we explore her character further, that kind of like the opening scene where she's in class and then talking to Matthew Ray Gubler's teacher, and they're talking about STDs, like, and she asked that very plain question, and not in an extreme, with just like a legitimately curious question. Red flags all over the place. That was that's what struck me about this movie. Number one is Anna Lynn McCord is typically, that was what was kind of shocking. Anna Lynn McCord is typically she plays vixens or femme fatales. She just the angular features of her face, her eyebrows, her bone structure, her and how she, and the timbre of her voice is what lends her. She's played so many like vixens and dangerous girls and stuff like that throughout her career. This is the first time where I think she's gone in another direction, which I thought was really good, and I was really, really impressed. So she conveys Pauline with, I think, an almost extreme level of introversion, and the way she reacts to Tracy Lords' overbearing mother and disapproving mother, like almost to the extent of like, why can't you be more like your sister? Right. And the checked out dad. So that was what was scary about this and what really, really got me was you have this girl who is ostensibly like one of the latchkey kids, whose parents you've almost virtually checked out and are completely oblivious because they're occupied with their own bullshit, descending into legitimate mental insanity. Nobody notices, or nobody wants to notice or they want to blame it on other things. Everybody has an opportunity around her to try and do something, even God, because God has a role in this, in her one-sided conversations with God. So all of the authority figures around her keep failing her and not realizing that they're failing. And then, of course, it turns really, really nasty, really, really quick.
Yeah, it does.
I would say very much Cronenberg body horror, given the extremity of her dreams, meets kind of like a Todd Solondz in the social commentary respect, where we look at how what's supposed to be typical normal American suburbia and the dark underbelly, the seediness, or the horrible shit that goes on that we just don't pay attention to or we never hear about. Because middle America suburbia is supposed to be kind of like, the American dream. And this is where, white picket fence, two cars in the garage, and middle America family. Well, that's what really rung was not so much her dream, although they are graphic, extremely graphic, and her blood obsession and how increasingly extreme she's getting. To the point of, self-harm and moving forward, and then of course what she pulls with that other girl's boyfriend, knowing exactly what would happen. But that was what got me. Definitely a nasty film, but also fairly compelling in my eyes, because what kept hitting me while I was watching this was not so much the graphic nature, not so much the blood, not so much, not even really that, was just the commentary.
Lords.
Oh, wasn't even really so much that. It was really the commentary of watching a character be failed at every turn. And that red flags are going up and people just don't want to see them.
That's what it is, right? It's not that they don't see them. They're actively ignoring them.
Right. And the worst of that was, I think, you realize, was Matthew Gray Gubler. Faced with this question, this girl just put herself out there in that respect. Not in a like, I'm asking a creepy question. Not like that, but like a legitimate deal. And he hears it. He's like, he digests it and then just moves on.
Right. Yeah. Again, it's the fact that they are going through, it's not even just, we didn't know, we didn't see it. you almost get the idea, or they almost come across as everything is being overly, like, we talk about red flags. It's like I were to take this bloodstained red flag and wave it in this motherfucker's face, and he's just trying to get around it. Like, put that away, and look past it. They're actively ignoring, not just missing, but ignoring. So nobody who in their right mind as a high school student wouldn't be a little concerned, or I'm sorry, as a high school teacher wouldn't be a little concerned if you were to hear a student ask that question the way she asked that question.
Yeah, I mean, we start talking about that middle class America. We talk about the white picket fence, and that's supposed to be the American dream. And it's like, okay, you've achieved that. And this isn't coming from someone who is poor and they live in some kind of like trap house or drug infested area. This isn't like some super rich, spoiled people. This is what's supposed to be the ideal goal in America. And a lot of times people in this situation, especially with kids, they get overlooked because it's like, well, listen, you have the house you're supposed to grow up in. You're going to the school you're supposed to go into. You have the friends that you're supposed to friend. You're going to be okay. And that's it. And that does not guarantee that somebody's going to be okay by any forms. It's not like hey, I provided everything necessary for you financially. So that's it. Right. And so that's why you have these people consistently ignore, because you have everything you need. You have
right.
On that.
Go play with your half-eaten Barbie dolls.
Exactly. And it's coupled with the fact that, one of my favorite lines in American Beauty, never underestimate the power of denial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, you're okay.
I mean, even in face, and it got me. Tracy Lord did get me. There's a scene when she's in there with Anna Lynn, where the mom is talking to Pauline in her bedroom. And it is obvious in her face. If you look at this girl, you look at how she's been acting out, the things that she says, the deterioration of her self-care. Okay, she does not take care of herself. I mean, you could see it.
Right.
You can see it in the way, in her clothes, in her face. This girl, in the condition of her hair, she has literally ceased self-care. And these are obvious signs. The conversation they're having is so one-sided, and her mother can only focus on the things that are important to herself. She can only focus on her appearance, only focus on her attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
All the things that reflect back on her as a parent.
All the things that people will see.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what it is about keeping up appearances.
And that's what it shocked me in that respect. I was kind of like, I was expecting, because I knew this was an extreme. I mean, when she tricks I think it was Aaron to go down on her when she's still on her period, knowing she's on her period, knowing that she's going to have this reaction. The way she manipulates people around her to get specific reactions out of them, and we know this is going to descend into the absolute chaos that it descended into when she essentially commits the murders that she committed at the end. And we all see it coming. So to me, as graphic as it was, this is like an extreme example of like real problems that we have today. The suburban underbelly, the things that we deny that are happening all around us. Oh, it happened in that house over there, or it happened down the street. And we just move on from that instead of looking at it for what it really, really is.
Right.
And the movie itself, while it attempts to like shock you with this imagery, it came off more sad to me.
Yeah, the imagery is definitely jarring, but it's more about what the imagery is covering up.
Right.
Or I'm not covering up. I'm sorry. It's about what it's underlining.
Yeah. On it. And it's just when it finally gets to that extreme, the fact that she has I don't want to spoil the ending. We're kind of at the 5-year mark, but I still don't want to spoil the ending on it. When she finally
5 year, we're at this 10-year mark.
Yeah, 10 years.
Oh, sorry, 10 years. So when it finally goes to the murders at the end,
and she's not killing for the sake of, oh, I'm just gonna kill these people on it. She's fulfilling the idea of what everything culminated to at the very end,
right?
On it, and it just ends in a very grotesque way.
Yeah, this one hit me a little bit different than I thought it would. I knew about the film. I hadn't actually watched this one, and I hadn't seen the short film either. But I knew of the film, and I'd always been kind of like, I'm eventually going to have to watch that. I think I kept putting off because of what I knew of the film. And to be perfectly honest, I was never a giant fan of Annalyn McCord. I always felt she was kind of one-dimensional. Well, she showed obviously she is not one-dimensional in this one. I think she branched out and did very well with the character that she was given. The only one who legitimately I think had an arc. Everyone else was just one-dimensional around her, which was I think also brilliant in the writing because that's her interpretation of everyone around her. Because we're on this journey. Yeah, we're on this journey with her. So
so everybody's like even people who are one-dimensional aren't truly one-dimensional, right? It's just that one thing that sticks out the most. When you look at the way that her parents interact with each other, you can see that these are over-exaggerated representations of the negative, like the biggest negative quality that she sees in her parent, like her mother being overbearing and her father being like, I don't give two shits what you do. You want that? All right, whatever, I don't care. You know what I mean? And so it's interesting that that's how they just, they just pick these characters this way, and it's done for a purpose. It's not bad writing. It's actually excellent writing because you see those interactions with this character, with Pauline, with her mother. This is what she hates about her mother, which is driving part of her psychosis. This is what she hates about her father, which is driving the other part. This is what she hates about her sister. This is what she hates about her teacher. It's done very well.
It really is. And I noticed Dan Hetfield talked about the undercurrents of school shootings.
Right.
And it made me think of something like Columbine in 1999, because both these shooters, they came from your average suburban household. They weren't poor. They weren't like troubled, and parents were riddled with drugs and torn families. And they didn't come from anything like that. And they went and they planned it for 2 years. And people are always asked, was like, well, how come the parents never like said anything or saw anything?
That's a legitimate question.
And I mean, which is a legitimate question, but that can dive off to something else. But coming back to how everybody looks away, everybody turns their head.
Nobody especially at that time in the 90s, nobody wanted to be the parent of the kid who did something like that. Nobody wants to be that parent. And sometimes it's easier to ignore the problem and hope it goes away. I'm not saying it's what you should do. Obviously not. It's obviously what you should not do. But sometimes for people, it's easier to ignore the problem and hope it goes away.
You hope it's a phase. You hope it's so.
You excuse it away all day long. Yeah, right.
They talk about it, but they would never act on it.
Right.
And this is one of those I think going back to when we were talking about Snuff and just the societal commentary, that this is what I think in this idea, the reason that the film itself is not really, the critics did not deride this film. And there was praise given to Annalyn McCord's portrayal of Pauline and her slow descent into insanity. But the thing about it is I think this is another one of those ones where it was just it hit a little too close to home, because like I want to make sure I pronounce his last name. Solondz does, like his work as a playwright and as a screenwriter, exposing that underbelly of middle America, which I notice a lot of people don't. Even now, we're talking about it in an almost hysterical sense. People don't like addressing it or talking about it. They don't. The things that like another movie that comes to mind that kept hitting me was 1984. The one about the cop who was a serial killer, lived next door and was a staple in the community and was an upstanding citizen. Everybody loved him and knew him. Turns out that he's a serial killer. And it was like, and then the kid's opening words are the most fucked up shit happens in the suburbs. Then you look at the comedy side of it, like The Burbs. I love the suburbs, like all the crazy stuff happens because you don't expect it there. It's the best place to hide. It's not like, Skid Row or like a deep metropolitan urban center or out there on the farmhouse. It's all like in quiet middle America, which is why I think makes movies like The Crazies so good. Because it's not where it's supposed to happen. Right.
Makes The Crazies good. Timothy Oliphant made The Crazies good.
Oh, that's a very good movie.
But like these things don't happen here.
Right.
And that reflection but we know these things do happen here.
Not only do they happen here, they seem to be the breeding ground for, like everybody wants to talk about, inner city violence and blah, 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 blah. But look at the breeding ground for fucking serial killers and people who send pipe bombs to the, Oklahoma City and all that shit. These are your look where they come from. They're your suburbanites. They're your kids who are, have supposedly, at least in the service, look like they come from, good, decent, homes, not these, terrible breeding ground. No, nobody would have thought that Timothy McVeigh was terrible. He was, what was he, MIT, I'm thinking of the Unabomber, but who, brilliant mind, and nobody would have thought that he would have done this stuff because it's just
it's all those appearances. It's putting up that front. As long as you can keep up that front and people go, oh yeah, I know my neighbor, he always mows his yard and always says hi to me, and he'll drop a package off, it gets delivered to the wrong place. He's a super nice guy, and then he can have some woman chained in the basement.
Well, I got dark quickly.
But I mean, that's like that. But I mean, that's the truth on it. I mean, and it happens. It's happened.
Yeah, Sir Little Wolf talked about Ted Bundy. If you look at Ted Bundy, how he even had one of the fucking judges who presided over one of his hearings talk about how how well he was adjusted and this, that, and the other as he's on trial for murdering people.
I think the comment was made. You would have made a good lawyer.
Yeah. You would have made a great attorney. Like,
But that's what, and that got me. And just the social commentary on this one, I wasn't expecting it, and I don't think a lot of people were either. Because
it doesn't present itself as a social commentary,
right?
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't like throw it in your face,
right?
You wouldn't look at the movie poster and say this is a movie of social commentary, and it turns out that it kind of is.
But and again, what have we always said in this show? All horror movies are social commentary in some shape or fashion.
And so, this was actually an excellent form of that, of art imitating life, of taking something that is a definitely real issue, that it is the willful ignorance of the lament of the generation out there, I guess of this particular generation, or the willful ignorance of the horrors around us. We don't want to focus on them. It's not my family. This isn't happening to us. The ego that gets in the way. That says it happens to other people. It doesn't happen to us. That kind of like if I don't think about it, if it out of sight, out of mind, it's not real until it does happen to them. And that's what got me. And the mother's reaction, that's what sold me. This is why I love Tracy Lords. The entire movie,
because of other things.
I love Tracy Lords for a number of things, but for a number of assets. So but her arc in this gets down to everybody remains oblivious, but she's the only one outside of the daughter. When the daughter, because it's that final ending moment, the mother comes into the garage, sees what she's done with her attempted surgery, okay, and you can see it hits her. My daughter is insane.
Yeah,
and she does not attack her daughter, and you can see in Tracy Lords that moment where all of her failures as a parent while the idiot husband is all tied up in the living room and shit. It's like, I have no idea what's going on. Everyone is oblivious except for the mom, where the mom suddenly realizes both her failure. She realizes the truth about her daughter, all of the red flags that she ignored.
Yeah.
And then her failure as a parent all hits her all at once. And then she legitimately, for the first time in the movie, hugs her daughter. She doesn't attack her. She doesn't panic. She doesn't fall down. She finally becomes a mother. And that that legitimate, honest intimacy between that intimate moment between mother and daughter finally hits the daughter. And then the reality of what she has done dawns on her. And we have the first, I think, beyond what she's doing, we finally have a legitimate, honest moment between these people. And that legitimate, honest moment is screaming.
And it's something that you can't go back. It's like I said, everything's been escalating. And then you finally get to the point. She kills 2 people.
Yep.
And
too late.
You can't take that back.
Right.
Nope.
You can't take that back. You can't cover it up. You can't do anything like that. So
this one hit in a special way. I'll give it that.
It definitely is an interesting watch. Now, this isn't the first film to tackle this type of subject matter, right? We were talking about something in the breakdown. What was it? I guess I could look at the script. American Mary.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is your cue to start talking about American Mary.
Oh. I thought you were going to American Mary was
we can't just fucking shove that question in there without giving any kind of goddamn context.
So another film that I thought you were going to give the context. So another movie that kind of did like what I wrote into and why I want to make this comparison, because while Excision was really, really strong, there were some weaker moments, but there's a similar one where social commentary, where actually socioeconomic roles play into, or basically what is expected of us at a kind of at this point in our lives. Things are thrust upon us that we have to deal with, and American Mary goes through the same kind of transition where a girl who is laden with debt, for student debt, trying to become a doctor, winds up, in order to make money, immersed in the extreme underground body modification kind of like culture. And so she winds up doing unlicensed surgery, body modification surgery on people who want this done and pay her exorbitant amounts of money to do this, probably more than she'd ever make as a doctor. And then she used that to basically pay her bills, but ends up getting a taste for it, for not only the money, but the lifestyle and the prestige that comes along with it. Because she's a naturally gifted surgeon and she knows enough to be able to do this stuff. And so, but then because you can't just cut up people with no license, in non-hospital deals. So obviously shit goes sideways and everything, as Eugene likes to say, shit gets real. It's these particular situations, the systems of society that we live in, that result in both situations, in both Pauline in Excision and Mary in American Mary, descending into madness and insanity because of the literal social systems that they live in. That you may want to do good and be a doctor, but money is, the king of all things. And if you don't have the money, you don't get to have your dream. So success at all costs, success by any means necessary. Pauline, expression of herself, her own identity, stymied and stifled at every turn. Nobody sees her. Everybody ignores her. The red flags are constantly going up and nobody takes notice because everybody's involved in their own shit. Keep your head down and do your own thing. That whole idea of every man for themselves. Money is the king of all things. These are social problems that we have created, and people slip through the cracks because of this thing and lead to really horrible shit going on. Both of them are social commentary on strong females going through these, especially on women. The societal pressures upon women, upon women's identities, upon women's roles in the workforce, and how
all that.
Yeah. And so I was curious as to which one, like the question is, which one cut it better? You know, the role of this. Was it American Mary or Excision? We know what they're trying to say. But as far as filmmaking styles, as far as technical expertise, as far as acting goes and writing, which one do you think cut it a little bit better? Because these ones cut really close, in my opinion.
Well, so there's your CTA.
Yeah.
Look, everybody, it's Johnny L. Warren.
Goddamn right. When you need it done, when you need it done and need it done right.
I said get context, not the whole goddamn thing. Fucking Anyway, let us know in the side chat or at weekinhorror@gmail.com what JL just asked you. That guy.
Tony Regime, I saw you over there. Yeah, a case in Austria where a father held his daughter captive in a basement for 24 years.
Yeah, that's a really horrible story. That's a really, really bad one.
Well, it's like that one that happened here a few years ago, and it was in Chicago where this guy was. I always remember it because the character of the guy who found her. Now here, all of a sudden, I see this white lady. I knew, baby, you ain't supposed to be here.
I remember that.
Turns out she was held captive in a basement of this house. I thought that was funny. Not that she was held captive. That sounds terrible what I just said, but the way that he disseminated the story, baby, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, he did the right thing and he saved her life, and they captured the guy and everything, and which was what's supposed to happen. But yeah, it's just when the news was interviewing him, the way he phrased it was pretty funny.
We got one more left, don't we? Huh?
Yeah, JL, take us home,
please.
Yes, got one last one, and an interesting one to boot. So, released January 22nd, 2016. We have the remake of the French film Martyrs. So, directed by Kevin and Michael Getz, based on Martyrs by Pascal Laugier, and written by Mark Smith, starring Troy and Belisario. People might remember her from Pretty Little Liars. Bailey Noble and Kate Burton. For those who haven't seen the original French horror film or this particular remake, the film centers around a young girl who escapes her tormentors, escapes a group of people who were torturing her for unspecified reasons. She manages to escape and then picks up 10 years later when this girl, now grown up, has tracked down her tormentors and taken revenge upon them, but then of course winds up being recaptured by the cult, and then we find out what's going on as this cult is trying to use her to gain glimpses into the afterlife through immense pain and suffering.
Such sights to show you.
Right. First and foremost, I have to say, while I'm a fan of Troy and Belisario, I think she's a very talented actress, and she kind of hit this one. This film is most definitely a shadow of the original, and definitely tamer, far tamer than the original French Canadian film. Martyrs was a brutal movie, and I was kind of like, oh, I got to sit down and watch this one. Way more tame than the French one, which I think ultimately hurts the storyline in this one. But we're going to get into it, and I'm really, because there's the subject of the difference between foreign cinema and American remakes and American cinema itself, which I want to dive into in a minute. But Eugene, I know that when I pulled this one, you'd seen this one before, but you had not seen the French original.
Yeah, so I've watched this one before,
right?
Just like a couple of years ago, and then I actually looked at, I took glimpses of it. I didn't have time to watch the full the French one, and it came out like 2008, I think. Mm-hmm. So I still really wanted to go back and watch it. I did end up rewatching this one because I just wanted a fresh speak on it, and a story like this has to be told in a brutal way. On it, it's the glimpses of the after. It's trying to get glimpses of the afterlife. The extreme amount of torture that has to be brutal, and it does get pretty brutal. In some forms of torture, some forms of the gore. The massacre of the family, which
right, that was
the kids caught me off guard.
Open the front door, bam! Oh,
boom! On it. It's something that kind of sticks with you. And leading into the difference between foreign cinema and American cinema is because America likes to have that happy ending. And this one, you can't have that. There's a lot of questions that are unanswered. They don't dive into it at all whatsoever, to the point of like, do the organization ever achieve what they really wanted? Because something's whispered, like I don't want to give too much away. Something's whispered that could be a moment of a glimpse of the afterlife, and then it's through a series of events is done. No one ever repeats it. You never hear what's said, and it's done. No one ever finds out about it, and it just leaves this just kind of this empty.
See, this is what got me. So, and Aaron Reese brings up an interesting point. Aaron Reese in the live chat says remakes are an almost exclusively cash grab genre, so they're never going to go as deep as the original. And I think that does play into it, but not as extreme as this, because I think there's actually what hints at. I think this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, is what and what Eugene was mentioning was American American mentality when it comes to filmmaking and the foreign mentality when it comes to filmmaking. We're going to jump into that here in just a moment. The big thing on this one was, and what got me was obviously the ending. So at the ending of this one, Tryan's character is up there on the cross, and that's Lucy. Lucy is up on the cross. She's been tormented and tortured to this point where she's obviously doing what they refer to as like gaining martyrdom, where she's like slipping into this almost catatonic state where she's like deriving images or messages from what they call the afterlife or whatever's beyond death. And she winds up whispering to her friend Anne. Her rescue sequence was pretty badass. I have to admit, that girl, that was pretty slick. I enjoyed. I always like when bad guys get their due, like when really nasty dudes, and it's like when they push a good guy to the extreme, they realize that the good guy is actually worse than they are. But I enjoyed that. But the big difference between the two is that in that scene in the remake, she's whispering things to her friend, and then the priest is like, "I heard what she said," and the priest is, and then he offs himself. The same thing kind of happens in the French one. In the French one, the Mademoiselle does the exact same thing. She hears what, because in the French one's a little bit different. In the French one, Lucy dies, and then Anne takes her place. In this one, it's Lucy through the whole thing, and Anne is the friend that manages to try and save her. And that one is, but the difference between the two is, I think, given the responses, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in this, in the original one, the end, what was whispered to her, even though we don't hear it, and then like the Mademoiselle says, like, it says to her assistant, are you capable of imagining what's after death? And he's like, no, and she's like, keep doubting, and then she kills herself. Is that
sounds like a fun lady? Yeah,
in the French one, the way I understood it, the answer was what she whispered was, there's nothing afterwards, and that's why she killed herself. Because they've been doing all of this horrible stuff for no reason whatsoever, based upon a belief that's completely false. So that's what I anticipate from there. That's what I got from the French one. From this one, much, much different. What I got from because the priest did it, was that they confirmed what they were looking for, and the priest realized that where he was going to go. So in this movie, there is an afterlife, there is a heaven and a hell, and because she has a much longer, whispering, when she's whispering, it's a lot more information. The priest realized what he's done, and he ends up taking his own life. And so two different mentalities. One, and that's where it comes down to, is foreign cinema, foreign films. When you look at like J-horror, any kind of horror films, J-horror, K-horror, Indonesia, Philippine horror. America is one of the youngest countries in the world, if not the youngest country in the world. Only not even 300 years yet. Every other nation out there has been around, almost every nation has been out there for hundreds of years more, if not thousands of years more. Okay? These countries have been through a hell of a lot more than America has. They've seen more history. They've seen more war. They've experienced more than America has in that respect, just by virtue of history. One of the foundations of America is hope, liberty, freedom, and opportunity. These make up the foundation of our nation. Other nations, not so optimistic. Once you've been around, it's kind of like old age. Once you've been around long enough, you just become a realist by virtue of experience. Their cinema reflects that. There is not always a happy ending. The good guys don't always win, and bad guys are not always brought to justice. Sometimes, it's almost like realism, or realistic nihilism, almost like nihilism versus hope. And that's what's lost in the American translation.
I don't think that's necessarily a reflection of like freedom culture and whatnot, right? Because you got to remember, back in horror films early years, there was a while there that horror films, it was illegal to make a not happy ending. Like they had to withdraw, right? Mm-hmm. In the States, at least, you could not make a horror film that didn't see the blob get, captured, or the zombies all go away, or whatever. That you had to wrap it up, and it didn't start until in the late 60s, early 70s, where filmmakers pushed back against that in the States. Mm-hmm. But because that's what we saw early on in horror film, was very difficult to break away from that. That's what people want to be scared, but they also want to feel safe when they go home.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, going all the way back to Universal Monsters. The monster was always defeated.
Right.
Or, justice is always brought to the bad guy. Norman Bates was arrested, going back, that far. The slashers were always defeated by the final girl.
Right.
These concepts that virtue will always win out. That if you are good, if you are virtuous, if you are pure, if you are, morally aligned, morally positive, morally aligned, like Aaron Reese brings up, like heavy Christian influences there. But that is where the hope comes from, is that hope is a major thing in American culture. There's always like the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll get through this. We getting through the Depression, getting through World War II, so on and so forth, getting through the Vietnam War. There's always good on the other side. We got to go through this. We got to go through the shit now, but we will get through, and we will persevere, and we will make it to the other side. That's the enduring hope of Americans.
Oh yeah, okay? And we fight really hard to maintain that, because even during like World War II, it was illegal to print photos of dead service members.
Right.
You could show service members in combat, and they saw that a lot. And you show them, raising the flag at Mount Suribachi and all the other kind of stuff. But like troops that were killed, people took photos. There's videos. There's tons of stuff from people on the front line that they captured from all various battles, and they had to keep a lot of that stuff under wraps, because the American government was like, no, we want to make sure it is hope. Yes, we know people are dying on the front lines. Everybody knows that, but we
don't need to remind them.
Yeah, we don't want to remind how bad it is, how brutal it is, and that way people can go, well, my son died. He probably died surrounded by his troops, and versus maybe what really happened.
Right.
And we just continue that culture up, and we just continue that culture of the positive outlook, the hope outlook, we were attacked and we overcame this, and we had the issue here, but the side that was supposed to win won, and it just kind of keeps progressing that way.
Right. So to finish what Aaron was talking about, he says, American media has a heavy Christian influence no matter what. We tend to feel that there's always a chance of redemption. Whereas like in Asian countries, and there are curses that can never be lifted. That redemption is not always a thing that is a possibility. But in American cinema, there is always a way to get through, as long as you persevere and you're the best that you can be. And that is where I think things are lost. Okay, that's where I think because Americans by and large don't like down endings. You look at The Mist, 2007. It still haunts me, because it's such a down ending.
That's why I love it.
Okay, and a lot of people, like a lot of horror fans will love it because it bucks the trend.
Yep.
There is no hope in that, and not even they got the monsters contained. It's not the end of the world. No hope. There is no hope in this.
Yeah,
because your protagonist just did the absolute unthinkable, and that kind of audiences don't like that. This is why Stephen King is pretty much universally lauded as one of the greatest horror, pretty much the father of the modern horror, one of the greatest horror writers ever. There's a lot of people, you either love King or you hate King. And like my mother stopped reading King was because he not all of his books had happy endings. And it started with, and pretty much it was Cujo that cemented that, with a little boy dying at the end of Cujo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they changed it in the movie, little boy survives. Imagine the movie released, that little boy had died after everything that mother went through to save him. That would have gutted audiences.
Yeah.
So
and when did that come out? Cujo came out what, 19?
Oh, Cujo?
Yeah.
Like 85?
85.
Something like that? I would have to look it up just to confirm.
83.
83, okay.
Yep. So you look at that,
and that's before they were bucking, not before they were really bucking the trend, but still bucking the trend of hopelessness in American cinema was still a relatively new thing back then.
Right.
And you weren't going to get a major film studio to put out this movie where they kill a kid. Like, how long did it take for them to actually kill a kid in horror films?
Oh, a long time.
Yeah. It's for something that if you take out, like I'm thinking right now, Pet Sematary?
Yeah.
And even, the movies that are bankable at the time, you got Steven Spielberg like churning out hits after another, and all his films are happy endings up until he gets to the 90s. And so
like you watch Jaws, even Jaws 2. You know the shark's going to be defeated.
Yeah.
Like you know it. You know that the shark will not win. Doesn't matter. The shark is not going to win. E.T. will go home. That's the objective there. So, and that's what King, okay, so let's talk about King in there. Like Aaron was talking about how even though you don't have a happy ending, King does express that hope can be found in even the darkest places. This is true. But one of King's one of his best quotes, I think, is that the best thing about it, or the thing about the horror genre, is that it teaches you that monsters can be real, and sometimes they win.
Yep.
And people just don't do it. So I think a lot of people love Dean Koontz, because no matter what's going on in a Dean Koontz book, there's a happy ending. There's always a happy ending.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the big thing. That's why a lot of these horror films, they don't translate very, very well, because there's always what makes J-horror, K-horror, like movies like Old Boy, even The Old Boy, which is a psychological thriller, a lot of horrific, crazy psychological shit in that film. The Korean horror ended on such a nihilistic note. Okay, with what he has to do to himself in order to forget that the atrocities that he's committed and what's gone on in this. The American one came over, went through the exact same steps, winds up with a note of hope. There is no hope in the K horror, in the K one, in the Korean one. There is hope in the American one with Josh Brolin. So
if you're Josh Brolin, there's always hope.
It is inevitable. Thanos, come on.
Thanos, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, wait,
Not even a react. Wow, y'all suck. So
Wait.
that's what gets me. That's why I think I was glancing onto this. Is what made Martyrs so potent. The original French one was how not only just how profound the torture and that horror. That was just some graphic shit. Not to mention, they like legit flay the girl alive at the end of it. So head to toe, there she is, full, like skinned alive, and she survives, which is just fucked up. But in this one, they don't even go that far. They don't even go near to the level of extremes in the torture that they do in the original one, because always trying to maintain that. Because at the end of it, the end of the original one doesn't have the police like storming everything.
Right.
You know, it doesn't. It just ends up with the camera like looking at the skinned girl. This one, the police show up, the little girl is safe, you know, hopeful ending. And it just sometimes takes the steam out of it. I think that's what the key is. American filmmakers are always going to look for the hope.
No, it's not the American filmmakers. It's the American film backers.
Okay, American film backer. I can see.
Yeah,
okay. It could be a money thing.
I think it comes down to the backers and the audience, because if we want to look at like American cinema where it doesn't really have happy endings, there's a lot in the indie market.
Yeah.
The real small budget ones that's just like, oh my God, like, wow, that is brutal. I'm glad they're dead because it's just their pain and suffering is over. You're not going to get $100 million film that has a sad ending, or at least some glimmer of hope. You're just not.
Right. All right. So this is, I really look forward to talking about this one. Just, you know, what people's takes on this. And I think that this may just be the tip of the iceberg in concerning these kinds of things, about the differences between, we've talked at length before about the differences between American cinema and foreign cinema, you know, remakes, and how there's always usually something lost in translation. And of course, I think this one is a potent one in that respect. So, and not to mention, well, you know, we're getting short for time and everything, but going into the whole concept, like, and the fact that this American one was set like in all the events take place in a home that is literally where you wouldn't expect this horrible shit to be going down. You know, the seedy underbelly, which is interesting because the top of the house, like the house itself, everything looks normal, and you have to go underneath the house in order to get to the chamber of horrors that's underneath, you know, like underneath idyllic suburban America. So it plays across this one as well. But I'm really, really curious. I want to ask the audience, which one did y'all prefer? Did you prefer the original French Canadian Martyrs that really went to the ropes with its extreme depiction of torture, violence, and just sadism? Or did you prefer this one, the much tamer, same story, almost shot for shot, but much tamer, more hopeful ending in this one? Did you prefer the original French Canadian or the American remake? Let us know in the live chat or down in the comments below, or at weekinhorror@gmail.com.
And just for shits and grins, if you tell us where you're from while answering that question, because I'm curious. I'm serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Oh yeah. If you're out of the country or here in the States, right. I mean, those demographics will play. So I'm kind of curious myself. All right. So I think, what do you think, Eugene? Is it
No, no, they didn't earn it.
They didn't earn it.
Nope.
Well, I guess that's another episode of Weekend Horror.
I think it's trivia time. They sat through us talking about some pretty heavy social commentary and some stuff like this. I think it's trivia time, and I think we're going to give away a Weekend Horror hoodie.
Ooh!
I'm going to give away the big thing. I'm going to give away the big thing. Huh?
It's getting cold out there.
It is getting cold out there.
Always.
And I think a Weekend Horror hoodie is where it needs to be. This is the big thing out of the store. So, but I love the way it looks. I've seen pictures of it. So Little Wolf got himself one. I saw this bad boy, and the artwork I put the limited edition the very first artwork on it. It looks so cool. It just looks amazing. And apparently their hoodies, Teespring's hoodies just feel amazing. So we're going to give away a hoodie, a Weekend Horror hoodie, to the winner of this trivia question. So Eugene, without any further ado, take it away.
All right. So
I have been watching the comments.
Well, apparently the comment section has been hot. That's what
been on point. Yeah.
Anyway, so flex your fingers, get ready to go. Here we are, Eugene, with the trivia question.
All right, the trivia question is: what director first coined the term splatter cinema to describe their own movie in 1978? What directors, you have to have the director's name. What director first coined the term splatter cinema to describe their own movie in 1978? What director said that in 1978? The first one to type the answer in the chat below will win the hoodie.
All right. Okay, so it's been 5 seconds and nobody's answered. So I think I got a good. God damn it!
As soon as you said something,
the minute I say it, yes. Oh, wow. Damn. Aaron Reese.
So, yep, that is correct. Aaron Reese got it with George A. Romero when he talked about Dawn of the Dead.
That was close.
That was damn quick. So, Sir Cat, okay, just go like that. We got to look at least some of these responses. So, Sir Little Wolf says, it's my favorite hoodie. So, yeah, it is an amazing hoodie. Sarcasm bowed out because he already got one. Aaron Reese crushed it. You are correct. Aaron Reese is correct with George A. Romero. I confirmed that. I'm looking at the live chat on YouTube. So Little Wolf goes director Herschel Gordon Lewis. Okay, I can see why you would ask it because he is legitimately like the father of splatter cinema or like splatter gore, and I totally get that. But it was in an interview about Dawn of the Dead. Where Romero was doing press for that, where he first coined the term splatter cinema, and then that, even though I wouldn't consider Dawn of the Dead splatter cinema, but then that was used to describe Herschel Lewis's stuff, and then he kind of because that was all he ever really did with like Blood Feast, because that was what he did. He became known as like the king of splatter cinema, of like splatter gore, so splatter horror. So. Pretty wild, but Charlie Welch is sitting it out. I'm too tired to win a hoodie. Let me see. Jinju said Peter Jackson. I could imagine that with Brain Dead, with or Dead Alive. I'm like NA is in the house. Good to see you, NA, and Commander Darklight. Good to see you. NA said not a clue, no idea. Commander Darklight said Ron Jeremy.
I think change the answer to Ron Jeremy just because.
It's pretty brilliant.
We got what wrote it, no last name. It was like D.W. Griffith. Old school director.
Oh, so congratulations, Aaron Reese, crushing it again on another another one. Aaron Reese, I think you have like everything we put out now. That's going to be the key. The key is to beat Aaron Reese to see if you can defeat him, to defeat the speed at which he's able to get these answers. But congratulations, Aaron Reese, for knocking this one out. We will get your. Let me know what size you need.
I think he's the Aaron. Small. Wait, is it going to go around? The hood has to go over his ears, though, so maybe that
So Aaron, let us know what size you need, and I will. Aaron says, I have one shirt and a pint glass. I gave away 2 other prizes, right? Because we gave away that stuff as well. So, but definitely, Aaron, let me know what size you need. Just go ahead and message me, and we will get that printed out to you ASAP. Congratulations again.
Chris Jerem says it wasn't Cher.
It wasn't Cher. I'm sorry.
All right, and that will bring another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you all so much for listening, and we truly hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when we look back at the romance body horror Spring, the techno horror Untraceable, the full moon cult classic Demonic Toys. I can't believe I'm about to say this.
Oh, yeah, this one.
The UA Bowl horror disaster Alone in the Dark.
We're going there.
Surprisingly enough, how he spends the rest of his evenings. We'd like to send a special shout out to all of our amazing patrons who continue to help us make the Week in Horror the incredible success it's become. Thank you all so much. Now, be sure to stop by Josh Olsen's store, www.badsamurai.store. He does all of our amazing artwork for the show, and his designs are incredible. Go check him out. A lot of fun. He's got a lot of cool stuff. I think he just put up a new one too. Mm-hmm. For more horror fun, be sure to follow us on all the socials where you can get the Daily Splatter right into your feeds. All the Digital Darknesses, our new gaming channel hosted by Alien X Gaming. That's so much fun. I can't wait. I'm supposed to be on Sunday We're gonna have some fun. Go fuck it up over there with him. Of course, we need you to comment, like, subscribe, smash the bell as if you're someone's number one fan for all the latest updates from the show.
I thought that was a better reference. Do you think?
Yeah, we're gonna hop motherfuckers. Those interactions really help us to appease the insatiable hunger of our dark Lord and Savior, algorithm.
All hail algorithm.
We should have glowing eyes when we say that. And lastly, if you love what we do here and you would like and are able to support our production, you can do so through Patreon. We have tiers as low as $1 a month, less than a cup of coffee. That's cheaper than Sharknado CGI. Not true. Unfortunately. Higher tiers get early access and special access, bonus content, monthly horror movies, and you can even join us as special judges for our Bloodbath debates. We got one coming up soon.
Yes, you do. Look for that message going out via Patreon and via the Discord.
That's right. But if Patreon is not your preferred obsession standard, you can always support us through our PayPal. Links to everything, including our Discord community, where you can find film recommendations, trailers, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even interact directly with us, are in the description. As always, sharing this show with the fans in your local horror community is the absolute best way to help us further our goals of global horror domination. That's right. Thank you all so much for being the greatest audience a podcast could have. I'm Johnny O.
I'm JL.
And I'm Eugene.
We'll see you next week. And as always, stay scared.